Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vana Chari Yamuna Tira Vana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pivajakacharya Astodharta Śrimad Nitya Vista Om is divine grace. Shilabhai Charan Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj is Khan to be the founder Acharya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Shishi Radha Govinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namate Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvashesa Sunyavadi Paskitade Shatarane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nastapareshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishnigi. Reading from the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 18, The Battle Between Lord Boar and Hiranyaksha, Verse 10. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Satyam Vayam Bo Vana Kochara Mirga Yuzmad Vidhan Mirgaye Grama Simhan Na Mrityu Pasai Pratimuktasya Gira Vikathanam Tava Grinanti Abhadra Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Satyam Vayam Bhovana Gotra Mega Yuzmad Vidan Mirgaye Grama Simhan Namrityu Pasai Pratimuktasya Vira Vikatahanam Tava Grinanti Abhadra Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Satyam Vayam Bhovana Gochara Mriga Yuzmad Vidan Mirgaye Grama Simhan Namrityupasai Pratimuktasya Vira Vikatahanam Tava Grinanti Abhadra Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Satyam Vayam Bhovana Gochara Mriga Yuzmad Vidan Mirgaye Grama Simhan Namrityupasai Pratimuktasya Vira Vikatanam Tava Grinanti Abhadra Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Satyam, indeed, Vayam, we, Bo, O, Vanagochara, dwelling in the forest, Virga, creatures, Yusmat Vidhan, like you, Mrgaye, I am searching to kill, Grama Simhan, dogs, Na, not, Mrityu Pasai, by the bonds of death. Pratimuktasya, of one who is bound. Vira, the heroes. Vikatanam, loose talk. Tava, your Grinanti, take notice of. Abhadra, O mischievous one. Translation. So, we are going to hear directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the next, for 1, 2, 3, 4 verses. The personality of Godhead said, "Indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the laws of death." Please repeat. The personality of Godhead said, "Indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the laws of death." Purport by His Divine Grace, ISKCON's founder Acharya, Savior of the whole universe, the most merciful, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Demons and atheistic persons can go on insulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they forget that they are subjected to the laws of birth and death. They think that simply by decrying the existence of the Supreme Lord or defying His stringent laws of nature, one can be freed from the clutches of birth and death. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that simply by understanding the transcendental nature of God, one can go back home, back to Godhead. But demons and atheistic persons do not try to understand the nature of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they remain in the entanglement of birth and death. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Dinanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmidam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishnam Stabhidam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapanantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparagamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sagana Varanatam Vidamdam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Barijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagara Lalita Shivashaka Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surado Bangor Mama Mandamatergadi Matsar Vasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Dibya Brindaranya Kalpajumada Śrimad Ratnagara Singasanasto Śrimad Radha Shila Devo Prastalabi Savyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Bamsi Bhattatatasti Taha Karshan Venu Swanar Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestu Na Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhis Cha Kripasindubi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Satyam Vayam Bhovana Gokchara Mriga Yusmadvidan Virgaye Grama Simhan Amrityu Pasai Pratibuktasya Vira Vikatatanam Tavagrinanti Abhadra. The personality of Godhead said, "Indeed, we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound up by the laws of death." So this is classic because we're seeing that a demon, the demon, is directly approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of his incarnations, Das Avataram, Keshavadrita Sukara Rupa, Jaya Jagadishare. There's actually a day that we observe, the appearance day of Lord Varaha. And he's demonstrating what we see on a regular daily basis with tens of thousands of examples of Hiranyaksha is just like everyone else in the sense that they're all jivas. You can be empowered to be, you could be just a regular run-of-the-mill, rank-and-file, normie out there. Or you could be a dog, or anything, or you could be big leader, or a politician, or rock star, or celebrity. You could be a demigod. And if you use your intelligence and desire right, you could come to the stage of being a Shakyavash-empowered, pure devotee, spiritual master who can liberate thousands and thousands of people. A very foolish mistake, we won't get into the reasons and the circumstances, was made in 1970 where certain disciples of Srila Prabhupada proclaimed mischievous Mayavad philosophy that Prabhupada is Krishna, and because we didn't recognize that, we're going to get so many bad reactions, etc., etc. And when Srila Prabhupada heard this, he immediately smashed this idea. In other words, the living entity can never rise to the status of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity is always the living entity. Prabhupada said simply, you cannot become God, but you can become godly. Demons and atheists can go on insulting or trying to take the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they forget that they are subjected to the laws of birth and death. And Prabhupada mentions the pivotal and most important verse from the Śrimad Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo viti tatvataha tyaktva deham punar janma naitimam eti sarjuna. Is there anything there that you could suggest that I could use in the class? Afterwards, I was just... one who knows the transcendental nature of my divine birth appearance, one who knows the transcendental nature, and what is the significance of my activities, janma karma. Prabhupada said that in Mayapur, the place of Janma of Lord Chaitanya, where everyone goes to visit the yoga pit, but our place, Mayapur Chandradoya Mandir, is the Karmastan. It is the place of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The place where the preaching or the order of Lord Chaitanya is being fulfilled, which is to spread this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world, all over the universe, actually. That's another thing that we can keep in mind, is that Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prashade Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. The living entity is wandering all over the universe. We see the example of the great compassionate devotee Vasudeva Datta. He wanted to take the sinful reactions of all the living entities in the entire universe. And the universe is made up of the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems. Ebe jas gusuk tribuvan. May your fame be spread throughout the 14 planetary systems. The 3 worlds, 14 planetary systems. So, when someone gets the seed of devotional service, association with devotees, or on the subway trains in the 1970s, a luglu, or they hear the holy name walking by in the subway for 3 to 5 seconds, where do they go in their next life? Well, they certainly go with the Svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, the little advancement which can save them from the greatest fear. Bhakta Philip, from what you have understood and heard thus far, what is the greatest fear? That's a good choice, but actually, if you read that verse in the Bhagavad Gita 240, the greatest fear is to, something like that, to descend from the human form of life at the time of death and enter into the transmigration through 8,400,000 species of life. Not to see the human form of life again for millions and millions of years. Like when Prabhupada says, when the Acharyas say we shouldn't be attached to society, friendship, and love, you know, here we are in the 20th and 21st century, and the United States of America, and this, that, everything, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Your next life, everything changes. And by the law of karma, those who don't like America, you might be born over there and become on the other side. Prabhupada even heard his spiritual master in criticism of the so-called Indian independence movement. So they're so fiercely fighting for British independence. What if in their next life they're born in British and have the mentality of prejudice against Indians? So what is all this nationalism and identifying with a particular society and the society circle, I have to maintain the status quo. I don't want to get thrown out of the society circle, It's not what you know, it's who you know. You gotta hobnob with the right people and swing with the jet set. This is all just illusion and phantasmagoria in the ultimate sense. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that simply by understanding the transcendental nature of God, one can go back home, back to Godhead. And what is that saying? To know me is to love me. Vita Raga Bhayakroda, Bhagavad Gita 4:10. Can you pull it out real quick? That being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, many persons in the past became freed by transcendental knowledge of me. And thus, by gaining that transcendental knowledge, what happened? They achieved transcendental love for me. So only bhakti mama bijananti yavanyas jasmitat, but only by devotional service. Can I be understood as I am standing before you? Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So, performing devotional service automatically accomplishes everything. Prabhupada, in a purport in the 5th chapter of the 7th canto, which would be, chapter 5, would be Prahlad Maharaj, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu. In the purport of 23 through 24, if one simply continues to think that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, even without performing any other process of devotional service, he can attain full success, for simply by this feeling one can perform all 9 processes of devotional service. So that is an amazing encouragement and seeming concession, but it's also a confidential revelation of the highest form of devotional service. So we worship great personalities, never to be misunderstood or imitated, such as Jagannath Das Babaji, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Vamsi Das Babaji, Haridas Thakur. And the best way to think about Krishna is to chant his holy names continuously. Krishna Kripa Prabhu, who's coming back on Saturday, and offered on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance day what he considered one of his favorite quotes. I'm looking, here it is. Sri Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord, is the best sadhana, spiritual practice. If other sadhanas help us in Krishna Sankirtan, then they deserve to be called sadhana. Otherwise, they are simply impediments to sadhana. Sri Krishna Sankirtan is the emperor of sadhanas. It is the only infallible sadhana capable of bringing us to siddhi, perfection. Our only devotional service and duty is Sri Krishna Nam Sankirtan. This understanding is auspicious. But demons and atheistic persons do not try to understand the nature of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they remain in the entanglement of birth and death. So this is the most amazing and wonderful thing. Just like Maharaj Yudhishthira was asked, what is the most amazing and wonderful thing? Who knows what Maharaj Yudhishthira said in answer to this question, what is the most amazing and wonderful thing? Matanga Das Prabhu.
That's the most amazing.
Yes.
That everybody around us, everybody thinks that death won't come for me. But then surprisingly, death comes for everybody.
Right. You know, it's like a humble or simple person said, okay, well, I'll just keep going with my little plugging along like the tortoise, you know, and I'm just a simple man. I just want my house and my wife and my car and my kids and, you know, and we'll all go to heaven and Jesus will come over the picket fence and he'll come and eat a hot dog at our barbecue in heaven and everything is okay, that's simple enough. But then the big demons, they want to build empires and they, you know, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world by all their plans and schemes and their illusions and defy the natural laws of nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has created the Varnashram system, which has genders, different duties and classifications for people in various modes of nature, but the demons want to erase all of these things. We're all equal. And there's no such thing as, if you feel like you're a woman today, then you should be allowed to do that. And if anyone, you're in a man's body, calls you sir, then this is a crime. And the person who's done that, because they hurt your feelings, should be arrested, and put in jail. And where does all of this come from? What is the motivation for such nonsense? To decry and insult the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the basis of it. But rest assured, from our side, witnessing all this, all of these personalities will be dealt with in a similar way. The demons and asuras, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya traduskritam. To uplift and enliven the faithful, the pious, and the good, that's why I come. And there's a byproduct of that, vinashaya traduskritam. By him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is vinashati, destroyed. So we are the messengers, the servants. We carry on our head the patakas, the shoes of the predecessor acharyas, and ultimately the Supreme Prabhu, Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who orders us to distribute love of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport in the Antya-lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the members of this Krishna consciousness movement must take very seriously their responsibility to distribute love of Godhead all over the world via the medium of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Perhaps most classic and illustrative of this was a pastime that is recounted in the Dasama Skanda, the 10th canto of the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, in the chapter number 66, the deliverance of Pondraka. The story of King Pondraka is very interesting because it proves that there have always been many rascals and fools who have considered themselves God, even in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. There was such a foolish person. His name was Pondraka, and he wanted to declare himself God. While Lord Balaram was absent in Vrindavan, this Pondraka, the king of Karusa province, being foolish and puffed up, sent a messenger to Lord Krishna. So we see various personalities who were backed up by high-level organizations run by the demons. They give their critique and their manifesto of how things are going to go into the future, and praised by bought and sold in the pocket, corrupt, prestigious universities, and others that praise such demoniac, atheistic personalities. So, a message. So this is the message that this demon and crazy, puffed up Pondraka sent to Lord Krishna directly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Pondraka stated, not Krishna, that Pondraka, not Krishna, was Vasudeva. I am God. In the present day, there are many foolish followers of such rascals. Similarly, in Pondraka's day, many foolish men accepted Pondraka as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he could not estimate his own position. Pondraka falsely thought himself to be Lord Vasudeva. So all of these demons, they grossly overestimate their own worth. Those aspiring for devotional service, for trying to practice saintly life, they try to think in the opposite way. One who thinks himself lower than the straw in the street, not wanting any respect for oneself, but being prepared to give all respect to others. So the practice of going out daily, regularly, to distribute Krishna consciousness to others is the best way to do this, because by giving the highest gift to others, you're actually giving the greatest respect to everyone that you meet. We're not engaging anyone in any materialistic activity. We're not scamming people. We're not tricking people. We're giving them the greatest gift, the facility to not only get free from the cycle of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age, which they will not get that facility anywhere else. Can you find on Amazon freedom from repeated birth, death, disease, and old age? See if you can find. How much does it cost, $6.99. Wow. And did I get a free carrying case to put it in? Because he could not estimate his own position, Pondraka falsely thought himself to be Lord Vasudeva. The cemetery is filled with indispensable men. Could not estimate his own position. Thus the messenger declared to Krishna that King Pondraka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had descended to the earth out of his causeless mercy, just to deliver all distressed persons. So you will own nothing and you will be happy. Just see how kind we are. Actually, fresh fruits and vegetables, they could have coronavirus on it. Very dangerous. But if you eat crushed up bugs that we've discovered are very nutritious, that would be much better for you. I'm getting into it, Yeah. Surrounded by many other foolish persons, big conferences of. This rascal Pondraka had actually concluded that he was Vasudeva. This kind of conclusion is certainly childish. When children are playing, they sometimes select a king amongst themselves, and the selected child may think that he is actually the king. Similarly, many foolish persons, due to ignorance, select another fool as God, and then the rascal actually considers himself God. Once upon a time, a jackal wandered into the village late at night and found himself in the closed dyer's dukan shop, and inadvertently or by accident fell into a vat of shimmering indigo blue dye. And when he came out, he was completely a different color, a bluish, shining indigo blue. So in the morning, back in the forest, all the animals saw him and were like, wow. And they'd never seen any. Where are you coming from? You must be divine. And taking advantage of their foolishness, he declared himself to be God, and he should be worshipped. So all the animals are worshiping him, and then at a certain point, other jackals in the forest went into their howling, to attract each other, and that's what jackals do. And so this newly elected king as God also couldn't restrain himself from his natural instinct and also started howling. And then all the other animals in the forest realized that he was just a fake, a charlatan, and his worship was over. You have falsely taken the position of Vasudeva without authority, but you should not propagate this false idea. There is no God. I am God. Believe us. I am the science now. You must give up all your position, O descendant of the Yadu dynasty. Please give up all the symbols of Vasudeva, which you have falsely assumed, and after giving up this position, come and surrender unto me. Give up this foolish idea that there's God, and come to me. What is it Prabhupada said to the communists? You're starving. Go in the church and pray to God for bread. Did you get bread? No. Why don't you pray to us, oh communist friend, please give us bread. Yes, here are the trucks, here is the bread. Now who do you think is God? You, oh communist friend. Or the way Christians go into the villages in South India where the people aren't so educated, that then we make Jesus wells. And if you become a Christian, you will get your Jesus card and you can drink from the Jesus well. But if not, then you can't. Go to the well. If out of your gross impudence you do not care for my words, then I challenge you to a fight. I am inviting you to a battle in which the decision will be settled. All the members of the royal assembly, including King Ugrasen, heard this message sent by Pondraka, and what did they do? They laughed very loudly for a considerable long time. Ha, 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 ha. After enjoying the loud laughter of all the members of the assembly, Krishna replied to the messenger as follows: O messenger of Pondraka, you may carry my message to your master. You are a foolish rascal. I directly call you a rascal, and I refuse to follow your instructions. I shall never give up the symbols of Vasudeva, especially my disc. I shall use this disc to kill not only you, but all your followers also. I shall destroy you and your foolish associates who merely constitute a society of cheaters and the cheated. O foolish king, you will then have to conceal your face in disgrace, and when your head is severed from your body by my disc, it will be surrounded by meat-eating birds like vultures, hawks, and eagles. Prabhupada, when he was told or understood that the bald eagle was the national bird or animal of the United States of America, he said that the eagle is in the mode of ignorance, is like a vulture, At least in India, their national animal is in the mode of passion, the lion. Lion. At that time, instead of becoming my shelter, as you have demanded, you will be subjected to the mercy of those low-born birds. At that time, your body will be thrown to the dogs, who will eat it with great pleasure. So, who's got the last laugh, last best? And that is Krishna. So we should rest assured that we should go on with our duty and not be in any way dismayed, distressed, or feel overwhelmed that the demons, their seemingly strength and their influence and popularity and charisma is just so overwhelming, because ultimately they are simply awaiting death. And the devotees and the demigods, the Suras, will always triumph. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Now you can say whatever you want with full freedom.
So, I have here the Sarta Darshini, commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. On this verse, and he's saying two different things. The one that we just read, yes, I'm a beast of the forest and I'm searching for dogs like you. And, heroes like I don't react to the arrogant words like you're saying, because you're bound by the ropes of death. And so then one other meaning is, instead of I'm a beast of the forest, he's saying, yes, I am seen by devotees who have given up material enjoyment. And mercifully, I search out those who are most prominently attached to material enjoyment, like you, and I ought to offer them a place with me. And if you ask me why I give mercy to such proud, sinful persons, because heroes like me are generous and don't feel the faults in your boasting words. And then what happens? You become completely freed from the ropes of death, since one who receives my mercy is not subject to death, O person from whom no inauspiciousness arises. So he's like kind of like complimenting him and seeing him. In that point of view, it's like seeing him as Jaya or Vijaya, whatever one he is.
Yes, the more that we give up sense gratification, that means the more that we're free from the laws of nature, which ultimately impose death.
And then the other comment or question is, so the demon will say, yeah, I'm going to control everything in the world eventually by my schemes, and I'll make it so that you own nothing. I own everything that you own, but you'll still be happy. And then what's the difference if Krishna is saying that? Or like, that's like, you become a brahmachari, give up everything and serve Krishna and be happy.
What do you think the difference is?
I don't know. It seems exactly
the same. You don't know? Come on. The demon's saying that leaves you to slavery, and Krishna saying that to you leads you to the highest stage of freedom and individuality and perfection of all desires. Ye prashade pure sarva asha. It leads you to anandam buddhi vardhanam pratipanam purnatmitis vardhanam, an ever-increasing ocean of transcendental happiness. Devotional service is the ultimate freedom because it is so powerful that ultimately Krishna becomes under the control of the devotee's pure love. The devotee becomes the controller of the supreme controller. And that's why there's such a gulf of difference. Just as there's a difference between gold and iron, there's a difference between prema and lust. Where did you go?
Behind you.
Huh?
He's testing something.
More? You? Him? Okay.
There is an injunction that violence means. There is an injunction in the
Keep
Gita.
it steady. An injunction that violence.
That violence means not preaching, to not preaching the Krishna consciousness. But what about somebody who says, oh, I'm chanting and following regulative principles, being a devotee, I'm preaching in this way. Is that enough to fulfill this injunction?
For the Bhāgavatam, their pure chanting is, it's like uplifting the entire universe. We like to describe how Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he preached so sincerely in what we would consider conventional ways throughout his entire life, working so hard, but he felt a little dissatisfied at the end that the people that he tried to make friends with and make alliance with didn't really reciprocate with him properly. This is at the time when he was more or less turning everything over to the fully equipped and empowered Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Lord Chaitanya appeared to him and encouraged him, calling him a very saintly person, and said that you please go to the most holy place of the Chatak Parvat sand dune. It's a place where the Tota Gopinath temple, that's where Lord Chaitanya actually disappeared from the world. And it is a place where Haridas Thakur is in samadhi. And Lord Chaitanya said, you go to the place where I personally gave samadhi to my beloved Haridas Thakur, and you erect a bhajan kutir, bhakti kuti it was called, and you simply chant the holy name for the rest of your life, and in this way you will deliver the entire universe. So that is there, but at the same time, This is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Dustamana, my dear mind, what type of Vaishnava are you? Simply for false prestige, you were imitating Haridas Thakur and chanting in a secluded place, but actually you're only thinking about women and money. You're simply a nonsense cheater. Prabhupada is following his spiritual master, has said that the neophyte must work very laboriously in the Krishna conscious overall movement, and only when one is mature, then one's solitary bhajan will be cogent or acceptable or pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even Prabhupada himself, he showed by his own example that he never retired from the preaching field. Even in his very last days, he wanted to make a final world tour, which he embarked upon, getting as far as his beloved Bhaktivedanta Manor and Shri Shri Radha London Ishvar, who were still in Berry Place at the time. But then again, the Krishna consciousness movement has many different aspects. So those who are going out and those who are within the temple, maintaining the temple to keep the thing going, it's on an equal platform. So one shouldn't be proud that I'm doing this and someone is doing the other. The main thing is that we should be, fully engaged, body, mind, and words, like that, because it's a cooperative effort to accomplish the many noble aims and purposes that Srila Prabhupada chalked out for us. Is that okay?
Yeah, just to specify one particular aspect, like maybe here we're observing the two extremes. Like
two extremes?
The two extremes. You have the Mahabhagavat, which is like a saintly person, and on the other side you have the pretender, like the complete pretender who is chanting in Vrindavan 64 rounds, but then he's thinking about nonsense. But what about, I don't know, maybe a more classical example of, people nowadays, they live their normal lives, they're raising up their Krishna conscious families, children. And what about them? Is it enough? I mean...
well, there's stages of life. Like Prabhupada said, one of the Madhajis was doing deity worship, but her taking care of her small children was being neglected. And Prabhupada said, for you, your children are your deities. You have to give full attention to them. Krishna conscious family life is very exalted. I mean,
that's also preaching.
I, for myself, like if I was born of a devotee mother and father and had the facility to be in Krishna consciousness right from the start, how my life would be so much different and better and improved. I can think of myself, my family, completely the opposite. And Prabhupada himself showed that how great is birth of a devotee mother and father in the Krishna consciousness movement. And he instructed and hoped that all love, care, and attention would be there, because who are the children? They're the next adults, and they're the next generation that will be the link in the sampradaya. So, in a short word, we've got a long way to go, and mistakes, very serious mistakes have been made, and they need to be corrected. Again, everything all works together. It's not that one is higher or lower. And we see, if we assume to be on a higher position, than we're actually qualified for, than the havoc that it creates for ourselves individually and for the society of devotees. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, better to be a sincere sweeper in the street than a charlatan meditator. Does that, has it kind of hit the bone where you want it, or you still want a little more pinpoint there, you know?
Very, very much.
Actually, when Maitreya Muni and Vidura first met, it's earlier in this canto, Vidura is saying, how can the living entities get auspiciousness? How can they get real? So then the answer was, both those who are transcendental to all material activities, the Mahabhagavat, and the lowest of fools enjoy happiness. Whereas everyone else in between these two categories, the highest and the lowest, must suffer the material pangs. Of course, the lowest of the fools. Lowest of fools is living like a dog or a hog, having indiscriminate sex, living in a filthy place, just completely. They think they're happy. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Whereas the Mahabhagavat, who's completely transcendental to honor and dishonor, fame and infamy, praise and blame, etc., he's there. Whereas everyone else is going to be like bumper card, in the Jolly Roger amusement park, and going to be bumped around and knocked around by the laws of material nature. So within devotional service, we are practicing to tolerate, ultimately to be able to transcend the dualities and the modes of nature. And Krishna, he encourages us in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he who is equal in all of these dualities, he becomes very, very dear to me. So by executing the instructions of Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees, the spiritual masters, which is such a wonderful instruction, the overall instruction is simply to give Krishna consciousness, give the chance to others. Such a nice thing. Anyone who aspires to consider themselves a good person and wants to do the best thing, automatically included within that desire will be the desire to do good to others. And the best doing good to others is to give them love of Godhead. Give them the chance to achieve love of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada was immediately struck with wonder seeing the mode of presentation in the hands of a very expert sadhu, very expert devotee. I accepted him as my spiritual master immediately, not officially, but within my heart. Gandhi and Subhash Chandra Bose's cause was, the whole country of India was behind it, seeming so praiseworthy. The people's cause for independence was itself the manifestation of God. This is temporary. And why liberate just Indians? We should liberate every living entity in the universe. Wow. That appealed to Prabhupada's a pure devotee, but showing the example of what a good person would be attracted to as a cause to give their life to, to help everyone. So, to always be engaged in doing good for others, that is a 100% guaranteed that good will always be bestowed upon you. Hare Krishna. Anything more?
I think you'd mentioned Krishna Kripa's point about the Sankirtan, the point, the piece that Chaitanya spoke about it being, I think, like the highest benediction for humanity. And I was wondering, this congregational chanting, is that just what we do in the street, the Harinam, or does that count the chanting we do at 5:30 in the temple hall?
5:30?
5:30. That's when we do our
What,
chanting.
on Sunday?
Here. No, every day.
Every day is chanting here at 5:30?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming. The japa, is that considered congregational chanting?
You chant it out loud.
Because I've been wondering,
Well, if you don't chant good japa, then how can you, if you can't give out something that you don't have. You have something at your finger.
What is Sri Krishna Sankirtan? Sri Krishna plus Sankirtan equals Sri Krishna Sankirtan. When many people gather and perform kirtan, it is called Sankirtan.
okay, so it's,
We're technically gathered and we're chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Ding dong, somebody has to answer the door.
okay.
So technically, yeah.
So Harinam, both of them are Sankirtan, but the Harinam's probably more auspicious. Well, no, they're related. You just said,
Well, that's
chant.
also his point is, yeah, it's like gassing up.
Yeah.
Did you hear Shivananda and Madan Mohan Mohini's, and their memoir of preaching in East and West Berlin during that time? And there was one German devotee who couldn't speak any English, but he learned one word, tanking up, because he had to go, he was able to sneak over once a week for the Sunday feast, and he would like eat so much prasadam that he wouldn't have to eat for a whole week. He ate like a whole week, So like he's picked up by like the border police, and they say, "Where are you going? Where did you come from?" He said, tanking up. Anyway, yeah. How about look at it this way? What is pleasing to Krishna? Krishna is pleased that we chant japa. And what is the time of the day? This is the most auspicious time of the day, Brahma Muhurta. This is you can read in the exalted literatures, actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has given a full book on the meaning of Shishastakam. And each of the 8 verses corresponds to the 8 various 3-hour periods of the day, of Krishna's day in Goloka Vrindavan. And he's also written a parallel book based on that called Bhajan Rahasya. So, and the deity worship is arranged based on Krishna's day in Goloka Vrindavan. There's the various moods, there's various feelings that are appropriate at various times of the day, just like you say there's morning, there's afternoon, there's evening. We have the morning tune, evening tune, afternoon, etc., etc. It's a big subject matter, but basically, simple answer, we shouldn't try to gyanically try to analyze this question, because it ultimately comes down to what is Krishna, how is Krishna pleased? Even they said, do not be disappointed if no one comes. You can preach to the 4 walls. And even more encouragement that we do our level best and work sincerely. We're to please Krishna, not to please the public. If Krishna is pleased, then the right people, they will be pleased and happy. We're not going out there to make a rock band or to become like music celebrities or anything like that. Of course, it's nice that we play the instruments and sing properly, but right. But the point is, Krishna is pleased, and we've been given a program, and we've been given a schedule and a way to live our life from Srila Prabhupada, and by doing that, we'll be pleasing Krishna at all times of the day and at all stages of our life. And on that note, 9 o'clock, slightly after, Hare Krishna. The personality of Godhead said, indeed we are creatures of the jungle, and we are searching after hunting dogs like you. One who is freed from the entanglement of death has no fear from the loose talk in which you are indulging, for you are bound by the laws of death. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Radharaj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.